And I quote, "I'll be there in a minute. Give me a second."
Time is relative, folks. Time is relative.
Yes. So, hey, cheers to everybody in the chat. They're a division rival. I don't care how many wins they get. Screw them.
That wasn't the take I was expecting to hear.
I want to gush over watching live Chris Tanev.
I think that we completely underestimate the skill it takes to play defense.
One highlight or several highlights does not a Calder trophy make.
I'm stepping in here. I'm going to be the crotchety old man here. They need to learn patience. They need to understand the tension, and everything, and the drama.
How dare! Look at this. How is McDavid not getting a penalty?
You guys need to calm down with this, okay? You guys need to calm down with it.
There is no calm. There is no calm in Canucks mind right now. Holy crap.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
This isn't the time for that, is it?
Welcome to the Shifts and Pucks podcast.
Hi.
I am Sean, and I'm joined by Tyler. How you doing, Tyler?
Hey, Sean. Anything interesting happened while I was away from the show?
I mean, even since last time we podcasted it, there's a lot that's happened.
Yeah, life comes at you quickly in Canuckland.
Oh, oh.
Boy,
Man,
boy.
it's just so losing streak. We have the comeback win versus Boston. Elliot Friedman drops I wouldn't even call it a bomb of a nugget on Saturday night, and Canucks land loses its collective mind over it. Over some of the Pettersson contract talks, which today, as of 8:05 Mountain, 7:05 Pacific, we got an update from Frank Saravelli about a couple hours ago, saying that they've made significant progress on the contract talks. So after Friedman says that the teams GMs are doing their job and checking in on where things are at with Petey. Just what a less than a week that this has been.
Yeah. Well, there's so many different things that to talk about this, so you might have to keep me steered on track with some of this. But I mean, I guess the overarching part is that it's so very Vancouver Canuck fan base to get hyper over something like this, and it's understandable why. That we've seen across the Canadian hockey, like all of the markets. There's always angst about whether players really want to play in Canada, right? So anytime there's even a whisker of some chance that might be an issue, people start getting a little insecure about it. And it's not wrong, I guess, for people to wonder about that. It doesn't really fit with the facts. I mean, in the current context with Elias Pettersson, a few things. One, he's a restricted free agent with an R at the beginning. Right now, long term, to wonder about his commitment to Vancouver is valid speculation. But as far as it pertains to next season, if he's not going to be a Vancouver Canuck, it means he's either forced to trade or he's gotten an offer sheet. And the offer sheet is really pie in the sky for a possibility, given the compensation that would be required.
It would be a max comp.
Yeah.
Max. But before we get too far into that, we are going to have Kevin join us.
He's here
in about in about like 10-15 minutes here. So I want to save a lot of that Pettersson talk for when Kev's here, because I know Kev has some things to say.
Yeah.
So but
let's just relax. Just pump the brakes on the whole thing. Put it that way.
Let's start with Saturday.
Yeah.
Let's start with the game against the Boston Bruins and the ending of the losing streak, which honestly they lost again last night. So it's not like it really has quote unquote righted the ship, but maybe it might be something that can help that going forwards. But can we just talk about how awesome that game was in terms of the feel, the atmosphere. Like, I'll just like for me, I felt this a little bit while I've been watching hockey for a while here, and I think part of it is just because of how bad the Canucks have been for a while. I just sort of been just dead watching it. Like I have my phone out, I'm just doom scrolling on Twitter and not really paying much attention to the game. And I was getting kind of annoyed with that. So I was like, I had this idea. I was like, okay, I'm going to put my phone away. Like, well, not away. I still had access to it, but I kept putting it down and I didn't have it in my hands all the time. But that also brought back some nervous energy, especially because it's Boston.
Yes.
And next thing you know, I'm pacing around the living room, like
I've seen that look.
and I'm just and
I'm trying not to lose myself.
pretty much. I'm trying, and the atmosphere at Rogers Arena was fantastic. Like they had the exit interviewing Marchand before the game.
Yes.
And I'm just like, that's hilarious. Like that's hilarious in of itself. And then the Canucks make their comeback. Brock Besser scores one to get it to 2-1. Philip Hronek, and dear Lord, that guy needed that goal. Holy
God, yeah.
smoke,
And
he's been fighting it.
And on that too, you saw the team's reaction to it. You guys think these guys don't care? You guys don't think the fans might wonder about commitment to the team, and that's one of those moments where it's not about the money. This really is about the teamwork and the game and getting to the core of what all those things are about. I mean, everybody could see how badly this guy needed that result, and that reflected in that reaction.
Yeah, because he's been. Oh, you can see the confidence hasn't quite been there for Hronek. He's looked a little bit better after that. He looked a little bit better in the Pittsburgh game, but him getting that was great, and then getting the power play in overtime and scoring that pretty quickly too. Oh, the cathartic release that, like, personally I had. Poor producer Heidi was worried about her TV.
Yeah,
because I just shot up right up and just fist pump, and she's like, "Oh my God, he's too close to the TV."
It just means more.
To put like a dart line. You shall not pass line where I can't stand that close to the TV.
You were
the
past
playoffs. No, wait. I definitely passed
it. It just means more. It just does. I've talked before on here about how fans, I think, expectations around the Canucks Stanley Cup hopes this time are a little more dialed in, and it's not so cocky as it was way back in 2010, 2011, when, of course, they lost to Boston in the final. But all of those things. I mean, much of the fan base still remembers all of that. It doesn't feel like that long ago. People of our vintage, if we can put it that way. It feels in a lot of ways like it was not that long ago. And so, it always means more when it's against Boston. And funny enough, how these 4:00 Saturday games seem to be pretty good all the time,
right? And just the visceral reaction that Marchand elicits from me every time he talks, he's on. When Miller hit him and knocked the puck off, the cheer that the crowd had, it was fantastic. Because the visceral reaction that Marchand gets from me is like I see his face and I just say, "Fuck, I hate him."
I think that's just how most fans of the Canucks feel, and not just Canuck fans. I mean, I'm sure Maple Leaf fans and Habs fans, especially. I'm sure there's a lot of that going on with Brad.
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
but that's part of his game, right? And I think he embraces that. And I hate him, but I respect him for that. And he has calmed down a lot over the years.
And I feel the same way too. I mean, it's I can feel conflicted, I guess, saying it, but I think when all is said and done in his career, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. And his his way of doing things has been very effective. There's no denying it.
Yeah. Yeah, in today's Hall of Fame, he probably does make it in. I don't know if he would fit if the small hall that I would want to see.
Yeah.
But that's nothing against him. Like there's
Yeah.
lots of players in there that I think he's better than. So
That's a broader issue. Yeah.
yes, that is.
Yep.
But and then one of the big players in that is JT Miller, and he's been amazing of late.
Yes, he has.
Speaking of atmosphere, the atmosphere last night in the Pittsburgh game when the Rogers Arena was chanting JT Miller. Oh, just like it's too. It really sucks that they couldn't pull that out because it just would have. It just the atmosphere in that in Rogers Arena now is back to what I remember from those 2011 days,
Mm-hmm.
and it gives you goosebumps.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and and I'm glad you bring that up too, because the games I've been to in the last few years, we get so distracted, like as fans, by what goes on in the social media and then the mainstream media and how those two things interplay and what the narratives become. It's always a nice reminder when you're in the building and you're just watching the game without all of that stuff.
Yes.
How how much more simple it gets. Like things are fine, like with the with the fans, right? You go to a game, it's exciting, the team is winning, they're scoring lots of goals, the star players are putting on a show. It's compelling again. It's not like Rogers Arena, there's nobody talking about it being a dull environment this year. Like
No.
Saturday was bumping, right?
Yeah.
And so whatever goes on in the social media, just try. People need to try to remember that. Like when you actually go to the games and see what the home atmosphere is like, I think things are in a pretty good state right now.
Even like that's even part of why I was like consciously putting the phone away for Saturday as well. It's just you just be more engrossed and focused on the game and just the feel of it as opposed to seeing what everyone else is saying about it.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, we got Kev coming on here. So we got about 5 minutes before he hops on here. So I think we can get back into the whole Pettersson discussion, which kicked off on Saturday. Elliot Friedman on his 32 Thoughts segment in the second intermission talked about how teams are calling the Canucks about Pettersson, wanting to know where they're at with him, and because he hasn't signed yet. For me, as I said earlier, it's literally just GMs doing their job. And I think I put it in our group chat. Reporting on GMs calling about Pettersson at this point of the season when he hasn't signed a contract is like reporting on who's scouting what game.
Yeah.
Like it's
routine part of the business.
Yeah. Yes, when it comes to the scouts, it's like you should be looking for patterns on what teams are following, how many times a team's scouts are going back to a certain team to see where they're at with them. That's more what you're going to see with that. But I didn't really think much of it.
No, I didn't either.
On my own. I really didn't think much of it. And then I turned on the radio on Monday, and they're talking about how PD hasn't signed yet, and he doesn't. And I'm just like, and they're trying to sign him. Not they will sign him, but they're trying to. And there's parsing through all these words and all that. I was just like, what did I miss?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then I think what really kicked it off, honestly, and we've had Rick Dollywall on the show. It's been a few years since we have, but we have had him on. He is a friend of the show. But Donnie and Dolly had their poll question on if about if Pettersson doesn't sign with the Canucks and is traded, who's to blame? I think that was really what kicked off the shitstorm that happened on Monday.
Yeah.
Because it was just like this hypothetical question that really didn't, for me, it really didn't like mesh or match sort of what was the real discussion here.
Yeah.
And it just felt like it was just, it didn't hit. And when you have to do a poll question every day and all that, you're not going to hit. A lot of the poll questions are not going to be that good. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is, right?
I mean, it's like a stand-up comedian, right? I mean, not every bit's going to work. Like, that's just the creative content business and the nature of that. Like, but at the same time, it's not the media's job to cheerlead the team. I think being supportive to a level is something we'd like to see, but it's not in their job description. Their job description is to objectively cover what's going on around the team, and so they tried to do that. I found the question odd as well. I'm with you. I mean, to be trying to assign blame to not just a hypothetical, but a really far-fetched hypothetical, right? Like, again, going back to what I said earlier, he's a restricted free agent, so unless he's going to do the William Nylander thing and hold out. And even in that case, Willie ended up signing with the Leafs and played part of a season. He's either got to force a trade or he has to hope for an offer sheet. And I mean, neither of those things are realistic possibilities. So even if they can't get him signed long term, he's still most likely going to be a Vancouver Canuck for at least next season. So the idea of trying to blame, like, it's just like, okay, you guys are reaching for material here. And fans reacted negatively to that, and I can understand why. But at the end of the day, the show is about generating discussion, content creation. Rick Dollywall was on defending the poll question, saying this is how the media works. It wasn't us that was dropping this news. That was Elliot Friedman. And, Elliot's a credible guy. Rick's a credible guy. Like, all of that's fine and dandy. I don't think anybody's really in the wrong with any of this.
And you just you have a very passionate fan base too.
Yeah. I wish though people would, judge things for what they are instead of, I don't know if it's me just getting older and I'm seeing the world differently now, or if things have changed post pandemic, but people don't want to judge things for what they are. They want to judge things to be something conspiratorial all the time. That's not what it is, right?
No.
And so now it's like there's all this discussion around like Petey doesn't like how the fans are, the media is suffocating, he wants out and this and that. Like, whoa, just like they're just trying to negotiate a contract, guys.
Yeah.
And there's lots of factors, how much term, what is the cap hit? How does the cap hit affect the team next year, the year after that? Comparables. How's he doing this season? How's his whole body of work been as an NHL player? There's so many moving pieces to the contract negotiation, and yet people are so sidetracked on his body language and what he said and not said, and so whatever goes on his social media. Like, it's just like, whoa, just like can we get it back to the basics here? As we welcome Kevin. Hello, sir.
Yes.
You showed up at the right time. I've missed you, by the way. And you're on mute. Oh, we're off to a roaring start.
Kev, we can't hear you.
There we go.
Can't be on too long because traffic on the ones here. So, but Tyler, I totally agree with you. I just wanted to jump on and talk about this. I think that there was a lot of panic.
Okay, can you just time out for a second? We can hardly hear you. We can hear you barely, but not very loud.
Yeah.
How about now?
I
feel like that would be...
No comment.
Yes.
I don't know. It's like your microphone is like covered up or something. Like it's working, but it's very low.
I'm gonna look weird.
That's a very close-up framing. Let's just.
Oh, God,
now
we love you.
Oh my God. Okay, this is off the rails. So
all right, maybe does this work there, Kev?
Did you hear me?
Oh.
It's not meeting minimum quality standards.
I'll leave guys. You're doing a great job. I agree with you, Tyler. That's all I'll have to say.
Okay, thanks. Nice to have some support.
We tried. Thanks, Kev.
See if you can find yourself an actual microphone and jump back on. But oh boy,
But yeah, it's a very
we do this show
complicated.
live for good reason, folks.
We'll have to
Jeez.
clip some of those close-ups of Kev.
It was just there was a lot going on.
We love you, Kev.
I know. Oh my god, that is not going for Canadian Screen Award. Let's put it that way.
But yeah, it's a very complicated process, and I
Yes.
think a lot of it was, I think, Petey wanted to avoid specifically this,
Yes.
all the distractions, and he tried to push it off, saying, I don't want to discuss it till the end of the season, like till after the season. And I do also wonder. I also wondered if like he really knew how long of a contract he wanted to sign,
Hmm.
because you've seen Austin Matthews go shorter term. You've seen other players go shorter term, but you've also seen other players go longer term. So, and again, the report from Frank Saravelli today is that, let's pull it up here quickly. Where are we? All right, yeah. The sources say Canucks have made significant progress with superstar Elias Pettersson working on what is believed to be an 8-year contract extension. Not done, but big development, and a new deal could be finalized in the coming days. And I think term was the big holdup for PD here. I honestly think that was the big thing. He wasn't quite sure how long he wanted to commit. And it's not that he didn't want to commit long term to the city of Vancouver and the Canucks franchise. It was more of trying to read the tea leaves on where the cap's going and the value of a player of his stature and how much the Canucks were willing to offer. Which it sounds like the money was never going to be an issue for the Canucks. They were going to offer. They weren't going to try and lowball him.
No.
So I expect this to be 12 plus million for PD. So
Yeah.
But
look at people. There's a lot that's made out of his body language. He's kind of he's kind of a quirky guy in that regard. He doesn't show his emotions much, and this is just society in general, human interaction. People maybe are put off with that, but look, the team is good. The team looks like it's going to be good for a while. Committed ownership, credible management, a great core of players around him. It's a team that drafted him and took a chance on him. It's a beautiful city, nice facility. They're getting a practice facility. That's even an improvement. Like everything's in place for this guy to want to be in this market. So why are we hyperventilating over the prospect of him leaving? It's just, again, it's looking for something that's a possibility, sure, but it's not really there. It's not like, to me, it's not jumping out as obvious like there's a problem here.
I think it was definitely a lot of the well, what's the issue? Well, we don't know what the issue is. But yeah, everything.
Like to compare it to, say, Johnny Gaudreau. Okay.
Or I would say that the better comparison would be Matthew Tkachuk.
Sure.
Because
I want to say on Gaudreau though, like when he left, I mean, he was a guy that was routinely made to be the whipping boy for playoff failure after playoff failure with the Calgary Flames. And with all due respect to Calgary, I love Cowtown. It's where you are. Been there many times. Vancouver's I would say objectively probably a notch up in terms of the world-class factor of a place to be living. Okay, warmer in the winter, bigger, more to do, whatever. And they have a newer building, and so there was more working against the Calgary Flames with Johnny Gaudreau than in this particular case. And with Matthew Tkachuk, I mean, he's the same thing, an American guy, and he had his reasons for maybe not preferring Calgary. At least he gave the organization the heads up, and they were able to get something in return for him. But you can't look at those things and say, "Oh, this is going to happen with Petey too." I mean, that's just not fair to Petey.
No, and I think it just felt like it was there was sort of cherry picking what happened in Calgary, and then putting the sort of the irrational thoughts of what if, and then you just would throw in another of paranoia, and you got sort of the freaking out of what's going to happen. And the reason I said Kachuk is a better example is at this point when he's an RFA at the end of this year, he's got 1 year left before UFA, which is basically the same as what Kachuk had.
Yeah.
If Petey wasn't willing to commit long term, like at least to sign a new deal that doesn't carry him straight to UFA, like a multi-year deal, I'd even say 3 years at the very least. The Canucks would have had every right to trade him, and they would have gotten a haul for him. It would have been a tough trade to win because giving up the best player in a deal is always going to be tough. It's going to be tough to win that deal, but you would have at least gotten something for him.
Yes.
But now with the news today that it looks like it's going to be an 8-year deal if the Saravelli report is correct, and it looks like this all this consternation and worry and hand wringing is going to come to an end soon, hopefully. Then they can just truly focus in on this season, figuring out what they're going to do leading into the trade deadline next week, which we will be back next week to discuss that, do a bit of a preview to that. So we won't get too much into that today. And then as well as you've got the Hronek needs a new deal, Zadorov needs a new deal, Dakota Joshua needs a new deal, and the way the next bottom six is
with Lindholm. Yeah.
Lindholm.
Yeah.
Like it just there's once Petey they have the Pettersson situation handled, a lot more of these dominoes can fall.
Yeah,
because then the Canucks know what they're working with. So I think the Canucks were frustrated that Petey wasn't hadn't made a decision and hasn't made a decision yet. And I think that's very fair as well, because they have all these other dominoes that they want to take a look at. And going into the trade deadline, like I said, we'll get deeper into it next week. But I don't know if they're looking for rentals right now. I think they've gotten their rentals in Zadorov and Lindholm potentially. Yeah. And if they're going to make another big splash, it's going to be for someone with term. And they want to be able to have the Pettersson issue taken care of, so that they can go after someone with term and add to this team not only for this year but next.
Yeah.
So it's I really hope that by next podcast next week when we're talking about leading into the trade deadline, we do have a resolution here with Pettersson, and we are also talking about hopefully that 8-year deal being consummated, and we can just move forwards from all this chaos onto the next batch of chaos.
Be the next guy.
Tyler, who do you think has been the team MVP so far this season?
I think probably the easy choice there is JT Miller, just in terms of overall impact. And I think I think his leadership has grown too, it seems like it's a long in the past when, he's just making sloppy defensive play after sloppy defensive play and then seemingly not caring too much about it. Again, are we reading too much into that? Probably. Now not only is he producing, but when he's holding court with the media, he's doing it with such great poise and maturity, and he's reinforcing the coach's message. He's reinforcing Quinn Hughes's message. Everything seems to be really on the same page, and he's been a big part of that. And when he really needs to throw the team on his back, he's been able to do that at times this season. So JT Miller definitely, I think, for me, is the MVP. But with all due respect to Thatcher Demko, I mean, he's Thatcher Demko's Thatcher Demko. He's been awesome. Brock Besser's been having a great year. Lots of great stories, but JT Miller, I think, is the choice for me.
Yeah, and he is as well for me. I think a close second is Quinn Hughes, but he has taken a little bit of a step back of late.
Yep.
I know that the poise, a lot of what you just said there, Tyler, the poise that JT Miller is playing with, how he's reading the game.
Yeah.
Just the play on that shorthanded goal against Pittsburgh was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But and then he's just able to read the play so well right now. And
his play without the puck has really come a long way here.
It has. Like he's been very in the past few years. I always felt like he always had this in him. It was very hit and miss, and it was very tough when it was Travis Green or Bruce Boudreau systems that he was trying to play. Where there was a lot more questions about what his teammates were doing.
Yeah.
And now I think that those questions for the most part have gone away, and he's able to just play a lot more instinctively. And I really think that if they can get Petey going again, they can get, like this is, if they can get the Pettersson line going again, a lot of what's ailing the Canucks right now goes away, just because then you're going to have two lines going, and they're two they can be two ridiculously good lines too.
Yes.
So if they can get that going, I think that'll happen. And when I say the PD line, I think when push comes to shove, when that line gets going, and I think it's more of a when as opposed to an if.
Yeah.
I think Elias Lindholm's on that line as well. I think he will. I think reuniting the Swedish line with Nils, Elias, and Elias, I think makes a lot of sense. Especially if you got Miller, Besser, and then Suter's basically been almost penned in on that line of late. And then you go, the Swedish line, and then once Dakota Joshua is back, you reunite Blueger, Garland, and Joshua, because they were just so good together.
Yeah.
And you've got three lines that could potentially dominate possession.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the underlying stats of Lindholm hasn't looked good right now, but give him time. He's still figuring out the systems and all that, and he hasn't had a very confident season this year either. So if they can get his confidence up, watch out, because that would be that could just be the thing that the thing that the Canucks need to make sure gets done before the playoffs. Because if they can go into the playoffs with the Miller line rolling, and then the Swedish line rolling, and then just have that old reliable third line that can dominate possession, that they're going to be very, very tough to beat.
I know it wasn't on the agenda here, but I just want to comment quickly on depth too. I mean, Arshdeep Bains has been this great story. Obviously, his journey from undrafted to playing for the Vancouver Canucks, a Surrey guy. But as great as it is for him in terms of the broader picture with the team, that's a reminder to a few guys who might be scuffling that their spot's not safe. And, to have that extra depth and internal competition, that's only a good thing as well. And that's been nice to see. And
you got Arshdeep Bains, and
as players come back healthy here, that'll give the coach lots of great options.
And Nils Höglander is on the verge of scoring 20 goals, all even strength too. He's not getting much power play time, and he's got 18, 19 goals now with all even strength. Like you talk about how all these great stories in terms of the Canucks are this year. I think the biggest one has to be Höglander, and how
Yes.
his production. Like it's just like, and it was because they sent him down to Abbey in the AHL for a whole season last year.
Yeah.
And looks like they're doing it with Podkolzin here. And if they can get similar results with Podkolzin next season, and hopefully Höglander takes another step, like again, like, and you've got Baines, Steve Baines as well. Like there you go. There's that depth that the Canucks have been lacking. There's that depth that allows you to move on from players that may price themselves out off of this team.
Yeah.
Well,
that's that long-term sustainability bit that,
yeah,
you know, I mean, certainly ownership deserves some credit just by actually bringing the Abbotsford Canucks into existence and having the farm team be part of their ownership and in their control and close. That's certainly, that started it, and now you're seeing that system produce a little bit more talent. Enough at least that if they got to turn to them, they're not just filling holes. They're offering something, right?
Yeah, and I think Jeremy Colton deserves a lot of credit. We aren't talking enough about him.
Yeah.
All right, is there anything that we've missed from the Canucks?
No, I think I've gotten it all out. I plead with the fans to just take a deep breath and try not to search for things that aren't there, when it comes to players and their commitment to the team.
Take your tinfoil toques off.
Yes.
So, all right. So, the other big news that happened today, former Canuck Chris Tanev traded from Calgary to Dallas.
Yeah.
It is a complicated deal, but essentially the Flames got a prospect, a second-round pick, and a conditional third for Chris Tanev. The condition on the third is that they get a third if Dallas wins the cup. So they're guaranteed the prospect that they got, who is a defensive prospect by the name of Artem Grushnikov, and a second-round pick.
Sounds legit. That pronunciation. Player, I'm sure, is legit too.
I hope I got it right.
Sure.
So, and then they retained 50% of Chris Tanev's contract. They also laundered it through New Jersey, New Jersey retained 25% of Chris Tanev's contract. So Dallas is getting Chris Tanev at 25% of the of his 4.5, I believe, is what his cap hit is. So that really helps them. Honestly, from a Canucks standpoint, I never thought the Canucks were in on Tanev, like, seriously, after they got Zadorov.
I didn't either. It made sense why there'd be that speculation there in terms of his past history with the Canucks and everything, but trying to make that all fit seemed a bit.
Yeah, I feel like that if Tanev is coming back to Vancouver, it's gonna, like, it always felt like a summer, something happening in the summer. He is a UFA this coming year. I know there's the Flames were hoping that Brad Treliving would pull the trigger on a first-round pick for Chris Tanev. I know Ottawa's interested, but that was also more of a summer more likely a summer move that Ottawa would make. So I think Tanev's going to have a lot of suitors after him in the summer where he wants to go. But he's now with the Dallas Stars, who are very much a cup contender. Adding to the blue line that has Miro Heiskanen, Thomas Harley, Ryan Suter, Esa Lindell. That's a very deep blue line that Dallas has. I don't know if the Flames are ever going to get a first-round pick. I think that was just wishful thinking, honestly, it might, from what I've heard, it might have been the first-round pick sort of thought was started off as a Brad Treliving Toronto tax. And then they're like, well, let's see if anyone else is willing to offer that. But realizing that not necessarily the no one was really willing to pay that. So getting a prospect and a second round pick for Chris Tanev, I think, is a very good return for a mid-30s high mileage defenseman. Oh, Tyler, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I think Tanev and the Stars are a good fit too. You know, when I first heard about this, it'd be like, yeah, yes, that makes some sense. You know, it didn't seem like that outrageous of a of a deal for Dallas to make. So, good luck to Chris Tanev.
Mm-hmm. And Artem Grushenikov is a former second-round pick of the Dallas Stars from 2021. He is a 6'1", 194-pound left shot defenseman, and so he's 20 years old, as per EliteProspects.com. So yeah, I think that's another piece off the trade bait boards. I never thought the Canucks were going to be fully in the Tanev sweepstakes. They already made their move, a couple moves with Calgary. So we'll see where else there goes. Flames still have Noah Hanifin, sounds like he's being shopped around, doesn't want to stay in Calgary. And then there's also been the Jacob Markstrom rumblings, which has always been hilarious every time he doesn't make a start. There's been a lot of Flames fans who are acting like golden retriever puppies that are overexcited and peeing everywhere.
Don't say that too
loudly. So we'll see. By the next week the next week and a bit for Flames fans is going to be they might rival Canucks land for drama. We'll see.
Yeah.
But there's a few other big stories over the past week. The big one that's kind of been that's really fun has been Matt Rempe, Calgary kid, gets called up. His first game in the NHL is the Stadium Series game, and he drops the mitts with Matt Martin right off his first face-off. Before he even has 1 second of playing time, he's already got a 5-minute major for fighting.
Yeah.
And then he's dropped the mitts 2 more times and has a goal and a black eye to show off to everyone.
Yeah, I mean the image is certainly a bit jarring if you're not somebody that's used to the old time ways of hockey, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean I would assume he's willing. Maybe he needs to be saved from himself a little bit, learn to say no sometimes. But who isn't fired up watching that? Like, really?
Oh, right. And that fight
kind of illustrates
the fight between him and Delorier.
Even if there shouldn't be a place for fighting on its own merits, there still is, and I think that kind of his what's going on with him has sort of illustrated that a little bit.
Yeah, and that fight between him and Nick Delorier. Oh. Talk about a heavyweight tilt.
That is,
I think you
mentioned that was about probably the best fight you've seen since the what was it, Talbot versus
Mike Smith.
Mike Smith, yes, a few years ago in the Battle of Alberta.
In terms of what viscerally got me going, you get the lizard brain, you get the gorilla out of Sean, and that one got me going. It was it was.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. I mean, if we're on the bench, that sticks over the board, banging the boards quickly.
I'd be banging on the boards, yelling and screaming. Oh
yes, absolutely,
But
absolutely.
Matt Rempe, he's 21 years old, from Calgary. He's 6'7", 240 pounds. This kid is huge. And I think a lot of it, this is very, very old school, where he's just going through and essentially having to earn his place as one of the heavyweights in the league, because this is definitely old school. I said he's just basically Doug Glatt from Goon, is what I said. It's just, but Like I said, you can have the argument about whether or not fighting should be part of hockey and all that. Like the rational, like educated part of me said understands the argument for no, it doesn't belong. But I just viscerally, it gets me every time. Like it does. So
There's still
it's
something about it that really, unifies a team and
yeah.
unifies fans, and it's so dramatic, and it's not as common as it once was. So when you see it, it really seems to, I think, have more impact case to case. It's hard to measure all of that, but it's there. You just, when you see it, you feel it. It's there.
Yeah.
All of
Yeah. So and then actually tonight he played his first game in Madison Square Garden. Rangers won 4-1. He did not get any points. Did Rempe even play? He did play, and he did not get any penalty minutes. So
Making
I
some
think
progress.
everyone thought maybe he'd slow down after this game, but maybe he
Yes.
has actually slowed down a little bit.
Yes.
So, because like, could you imagine just it's like there's like the holy grails of playing in sports arenas around the world and in North America, and Madison Square Garden is right up there, and you could like the big fight feel that you get when you're
Yeah.
playing in Madison Square Gardens. I'm actually surprised he didn't.
Yeah.
Maybe Laviolette was like, kid, you'll have your chance to make Rangers fans chant your name. Just don't do it tonight. You need to slow down.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, is fair. Like when you have a shiner and you've already been in the league less than a week and you've already got 3 fights, I think it's you have to sort of pace yourself at some point. So, and then Austin Matthews scored his 50th goal of the season, doing it in 40 some games. Or
Against
not
Arizona.
60 some games. So like it's it's
just another day at the office for Austin Matthews. Hey,
it is. I
it's just
hate that he's a
impressive,
Leaf, but he's such. I don't think there's anyone who can touch his scoring ability in the league right now. Like it's just.
He's a reminder for all the young hockey players out there to work on your shot. Hey, like just that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love watching him to shoot the puck. It's amazing. Yeah, as I was just saying, he got it against Arizona too. How perfect is that for him personally? Being from there.
The narrative was perfect there for Austin Matthews.
Now, can he drag his Maple Leafs along to some playoff success? I'm not rooting against that. I'm not. I'd love to see that.
I don't mind them getting past the first round again. Maybe they can spend another 5 years toiling in the second round. I think that'd be fun.
So the third round would be too much for you, become insufferable, or what?
I mean, Toronto might become a little insufferable at that point. And the Canucks aren't in their conference to knock them out of the third round again.
Glass houses, Sean. just remember that.
I know.
Yeah.
It's always more fun. It's always more fun when Toronto's in the playoffs because you do get that chaos for sure.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
but
I say it's like the Dallas Cowboys in the NFL playoffs, the New York Yankees in the Major League postseason. It is more interesting with certain teams of the bigger markets and fan bases.
You got to have the evil empire in there.
Yeah, definitely.
And speaking of the evil empire, Gary Bettman came to Winnipeg to discuss the attendance issues in Winnipeg. Tyler, what did you think of?
I wanted to talk about this too because it seemed like there was a little bit of panic ensuing over, is this the beginning of the end for the Winnipeg Jets 2.0? And Bettman doesn't want to be in Winnipeg. Well, it's not really up to Bettman whether with that. Like, I just want to provide some like perspective and calm on this whole issue. Okay. With Bettman, you got to judge Bettman on what he puts on record, because whatever he puts on record, he never ever takes it back. And he's a lawyer, and so you can be pretty confident in believing what he puts on the record. And he's always talked about how the NHL needs to have committed ownership in a building for it to work. And that is still the case with True North Sports and Entertainment and Canada Life Place in Winnipeg. Now, why has attendance dropped to the second lowest number in the NHL for average attendance this season? Obviously, Arizona being the lowest. Well, I mean, there is the economy, perhaps, and people are being a little more discretionary with their spending on sports. There may be too much going on with sports in Winnipeg that are competing for the dollars. We got to remember that the Blue Bombers are a very strong brand and a contender in the CFL, and so they are competing with them. There's an AHL team there now. Yeah, so there's lots going on in Winnipeg for a city that's still relatively not very big by NHL market standards. You look around the rest of the league, but the commissioner's job is to avoid moving out of places that they're in. And so why was he in Winnipeg? Well, if it's there to try and firm up some of the corporate sponsorship dollars that maybe have disappeared over the last few years, as maybe resulting from the pandemic, that's his job, is to come in and do that glad handing and try to help the Jets ownership kind of get that back and come out and bring some calm to the situation. And he did a press conference yesterday, and I didn't hear anything in there about that would give, if I were a Jets fan, any concern about the team leaving that market. And they've already got a mess going with the Coyotes, and what are they going to do with the Coyotes? It's pretty solid in Winnipeg. It'd be nice to see the fans come back. Another deep playoff run, I think, would totally reinvigorate the fan base, and they'll be right back there. So, let's not get panicked over the Winnipeg Jets 2.0 here.
Yeah, I think it's. We talked earlier about sort of trying to find things that aren't there.
Yeah.
In certain situations, this is something that that is. From what he said in that press conference, there's nothing there that I think people should be worried about losing the Jets, at least at this point. I think it would have to take at least 3, 4, maybe 5 years of this type of attendance for them to be looking elsewhere, and I don't see that happening. I think they're going to find they're going to do their best. Mark Shipman and the Thompson family, I think, are going to do their best to try and figure out how to get that get the MTS Center rocking again and full again. And they've got a good team this year, and once the playoffs start, I think you will see some of the attendance issues go right away, and that the influx of cash into that for that team will be very helpful.
I mean, let's remember the novelty is long worn off here with them coming back. The first year back was 2011, 2012. There's been one third round appearance, few playoff appearances. There may be I don't want to use the word apathy because I don't think that's the right word for this, but there may be a little bit of just like, show me that we really are a contender here, to get maybe the wallets opened up a little bit for those expensive tickets. But like we said, like we've been saying, if they come out in the playoffs, guns a blazing, and the top, the whiteout is going, and that'll bring the fans back. I mean, surely it will.
Oh yeah, and you have to remember how much of a unknown and just almost clusterfuck the Jets were after last season. They didn't know whether Hellebuck and Scheifele were coming back. Blake Wheeler was bought out. There was questions on the fact that they brought back Rick Bowness. There was a lot of questions about the team going into this season, and they've answered them by a lot. And but I think there's there still might be some lingering questions there, and if they can go on a deep run, that will definitely help cure this for sure. And then I agree with you in terms of what Gary Bettman puts on record is very, very important.
Yeah.
He tries to send the right. You can tell what kind of message he's trying to send. When it comes to the Coyotes stuff right now, I think a lot of it is just making sure that there can be no. The NHL can say they've exhausted all avenues of keeping them there and all that. And if they don't do the same with the Jets, they'll be held to pay from almost, I'll say every fan north of the border.
Yeah.
He'll have to answer to. And I think he will go down and try that they will go down swinging if they can't keep him there. But I think at least short term, I don't think there should be any worry that the Jets are going anywhere.
And I'm going to assume the Jets' local TV and radio rights deals are pretty favorable for the team, and having the 7th Canadian club is good for the upcoming renewal of the national TV rights in Canada. So there's all kinds of things pointing to why the NHL would want to believe in Winnipeg and be committed to Winnipeg. From what I gather, there was some, I guess, comment made by Mark Chipman about over the long haul, the erosion of the season ticket base maybe being an issue, or it's not going to work in the long haul, I think is the phrasing of it. But that doesn't mean they're looking to move the team. That may be more around, are they going to be able to really, take a swing at the Stanley Cup and be competitive with that? That's kind of another story. But their commitment to Winnipeg, I mean, they didn't bring the Jets there, to have this be this big cash cow. I mean, yes, they want to be profitable. They need to be profitable, but they brought it to Winnipeg for the right reasons. They're committed to Manitoba. Period. End of story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Tyler, is there anything else in the NHL that?
No. No. I've been caging it up here for a couple of weeks. This time of year is really busy for me. Both with my day job. It's we've had winter actually has been showing up here lately. I was just working a night shift last night with snowstorm coverage, and of course with the hockey I'm playing and reffing, it's playoff time. So it's been hard to make this work with you here, but we were able to do it today and cover lots of ground.
Okay. Well, then that brings us to one last question. I do have one. Okay. Would you go to a Canucks game dressed as a Green Man?
Not a chance. Wouldn't that be very suffocating?
I don't know. I've never worn one of those. One of those like bodysuits.
And those guys, like I hope I wonder if they're feeling it the next day. Like they're not spring chickens anymore. Those guys. This isn't like 12 years ago.
I know, it's so long ago, but I love seeing them back.
Though? Like to bring it back on that occasion, it's on hockey night. It's against Boston, and it just added to an already pretty good atmosphere.
Well, they had to fly Sully. They had to fly Sully out from Saskatoon.
That's a bit of a name drop, but I do know Sully from my past in Vancouver. So it was great.
No, it was fantastic. Honestly, I want to say I would do it, but those suits are so tight, and I have made a lot of progress in getting back into shape over the past few months. But I'm still not quite there. I still have it takes a lot of confidence to do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I was so happy.
It's stretching. You gotta get loosened up. Very extensive
acrobatics they do. But it was so great to see them back. It was blast from the past. They brought the waffles out.
Yes. And then there was that James Van Riemsdyk there. I mean, he could not contain the smirk.
Yeah.
Love that.
Oh, it was so great. So great. All right.
On that note, let's get out of here.
All right. First off, I just wanted to shout out to Casey on YouTube for tuning in. Yeah, it would have been nice for Tana to come back to Vancouver, but I think where they're at with the blue line, Noah Juleson has been an absolute revelation for the Canucks. A bottom pair of Juleson and right now I think it's Zadorov. That is a mean pairing.
Yep.
And I absolutely love seeing them just crank hits, and Juleson is just tan of two, like it's just tan of light right now with the amount of like shots he's blocking and how he's throwing his body into harm. So
yeah.
And then the Canucks are going to get. Sounds like Carson Soucy could be back here soon. So they're going to be having to make decisions on that blue line more with who they have right now, let alone adding. So.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, thanks for tuning in, Casey. Thanks for everyone else for tuning in. You can follow us on the social medias at Shifts and Puck. So at Shifts and Pucks. So that's X/Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Tyler, how do we follow you?
On X at Tnoble, Tnoble.
You can follow me at BeardyConnect03. You can follow Chris on the social medias at Schneids, SCHNEIDZ. You can follow Kevin on the social medias, KEVOLE, Kevol. You can follow Devin, our Peterborough Pete's Insider, at Gordhouse09.
Hi, Devin.
He's hoping to be on more often now that he's made the move out to Ontario.
Yes,
and hopefully we'll get you and Devin on the same podcast here.
Oh,
Tyler.
that'll be a special time. Yes. Sorry I missed the last one.
It's we'll get, and maybe we'll get all of us on at once. And all chaos will
could make for a long broadcast.
It might be. But
yes.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. We will see you next time. Bye for now.